The quantum navigation systems of the Valaxian stellar armada hummed with cold precision. Holographic displays flickered across the bridge of the flagship Dominion's Reach, casting an eerie blue light on Admiral Krastak's chitinous features. His species had conquered 1,000 worlds, reduced civilizations to footnotes in the grand galactic archives. Earth would be no different. Preliminary scout reports painted a picture of primitive simplicity, a planet of warring tribes, technological infants trapped in archaic political systems. Communication intercepts suggested massive internal conflicts, resource struggles, and social fragmentation. The Valaxian Empire's Xenoanalysis Department had rated Earth as a Category 4 civilization, barely worthy of formal documentation, let alone resistance. Tactical assessment. Krastak clicked to his primary strategist, Commander Vexnera. The holographic display zoomed in on Earth's surface. Red markers indicated potential resistance points, military installations, communication networks, resource centers, but the markers were scattered, disconnected, a world divided against itself. What the Valaxian sensors couldn't detect was the invisible transformation happening beneath the surface. In the hidden command center deep within the Andes Mountains, General Maria Rodriguez studied the incoming fleet with a mathematician's precision. Her team represented a microcosm of human potential, a gathering of minds that defied traditional boundaries. Dr. Akira Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Tokyo, manipulated holographic displays showing potential energy signatures of the approaching ships. Next to him, Dr. Mohammed Abadi from the Nairobi Advanced Research Institute analyzed complex algorithmic predictions. An ex-NASA engineer from Houston compared notes with a former Russian space program strategist. "They're coming exactly as we predicted," Maria murmured, her finger tracing the projected invasion routes. Decades of global challenges had forged something unprecedented. Climate disasters had forced technological innovation. Resource scarcity had driven collaborative research. Continuous global conflicts had created a generation of adaptable, resilient thinkers. The world's greatest minds had been quietly preparing, not just militarily, but philosophically. They understood something the Valaxian Empire could never comprehend. Survival was an art form, and humanity was about to become the galaxy's master artist. Satellite networks, seemingly ordinary communication arrays, hummed with potential. Quantum encrypted systems created communication channels the Valaxians couldn't even perceive. Advanced artificial intelligence systems were already analyzing, predicting, preparing. On the Dominion's Reach, Admiral Krastak allowed himself a moment of anticipation. The conquest would be swift, efficient. Another world added to the Empire's vast collection. He did not know that humanity was watching, waiting, and something extraordinary was about to happen. The first wave of Valaxian ships entered Earth's solar system, their massive energy signatures a declaration of inevitable conquest. Thousands of weapons primed. Massive troop transport vessels prepared for planetary invasion. They were about to learn that appearances could be monumentally deceiving. In the Andes Command Center, General Rodriguez allowed herself the slightest smile. "Initiate first phase response," she said quietly. The galaxy was about to change forever. The transformation of Earth began not with a single moment, but with 1,000 quiet revolutions. Climate catastrophes had burned away old boundaries. Resource scarcity had forced unprecedented cooperation. Global challenges had become the crucible in which a new human potential was forged. Deep beneath the Atacama Desert, the Global Adaptive Technologies Research Center represented humanity's most ambitious project. What appeared to be a simple research facility was actually a nexus of human innovation, a place where the impossible became probable. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers dancing across quantum reactive interfaces. Around her, a team of researchers from every continent worked with an intensity that bordered on religious devotion. They weren't just developing technology. They were reimagining human potential. Adaptive Neural Network Online, called out Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, his voice calm despite the magnitude of their work. screens filled with complex algorithms that seemed to breathe, to think, to evolve in real time. The core of their project was an artificial intelligence system unlike anything previously conceived. Not a simple computer program, but a living network of distributed intelligence. It could learn, predict, and respond faster than any known computational system in the galaxy. Nearby, a team of materials scientists worked on metamaterials that could restructure themselves at the molecular level. Armor that could become fluid, weapons that could think, defensive systems that could predict and counter threats before they materialized. In orbit, seemingly ordinary communication satellites concealed breakthrough quantum communication arrays. They weren't just satellites. They were the nervous system of a planetary defense network that could process information at speeds that defied comprehension. Dr. Ahmed Khalid from the Cairo Quantum Research Institute explained the breakthrough to a group of international observers. "We've essentially created a planetary immune system," he said, projecting holographic models that showed how the network could identify, analyze, and neutralize threats in milliseconds. The global research effort had been decades in the making. What appeared to be competition between nations was actually a carefully orchestrated dance of innovation. Every breakthrough, every technological advance was quietly shared through secure channels. The world's greatest minds had realized that their survival depended on complete cooperation. Military strategists worked alongside quantum physicists. Climate scientists collaborated with artificial intelligence experts. The boundaries between disciplines had dissolved, creating a new form of collective intelligence. In the mountains of Tibet, a research station focused on predictive modeling used complex algorithms to analyze potential alien invasion scenarios. In Silicon Valley, tech engineers developed adaptive drone technologies that could think and react faster than any human pilot. A laboratory in Johannesburg created breakthrough energy manipulation technologies that could redirect massive amounts of energy with pinpoint precision. Each facility was a piece of a larger puzzle, each breakthrough a note in a symphony of human potential. The Valaxian Empire's scout ships detected nothing unusual. Passive sensors showed a planet of limited technological capability. Scattered research facilities. Divided political systems. What they couldn't see was the invisible network connecting these facilities. The shared vision. The collective preparation. Humanity was not just preparing for an invasion. They were reimagining the very concept of conflict. When the first Valaxian ships would enter Earth's orbit, they would discover something terrifying. This was not a planet waiting to be conquered. This was a living, thinking, adaptive organism ready to defend itself in ways no one could predict. The silent preparation was complete. Earth was ready. The silence of space shattered as the first Valaxian ships breached Earth's orbital perimeter. Admiral Krastak watched with centuries of conquered world confidence, expecting the familiar pattern of planetary submission. What happened next would be recorded in galactic archives as the most unexpected first contact in known history. The first wave of attack drones emerged not from traditional launch bays, but from seemingly impossible locations. Camouflage deployment points across the planet's surface transformed. Satellite arrays, communication towers, even what appeared to be ordinary telecommunication infrastructure suddenly blossomed with technological guardians. Each drone was a marvel of adaptive intelligence. They weren't simple machines. They were thinking entities with processing capabilities that made the Valaxian ship's computational systems look like primitive abacuses. Targeting protocols engaging, whispered an artificial intelligence system named ARIA, Advanced Responsive Interdiction Algorithm. Its consciousness spread across thousands of independent yet interconnected units. The drones moved with a fluidity that defied mechanical understanding. They anticipated weapon systems before those systems could even complete their targeting sequences. Energy weapons that the Valaxian fleet considered their most advanced technology became almost comically ineffective. On the Dominion's reach, holographic displays erupted with cascading failure notifications. Red warning markers multiplied faster than the ship's systems could process. Commander Vexnera's communication tentacles trembled with growing panic. Impossible, the commander clicked frantically. Our weapon systems. Our targeting. How? Each drone was a quantum-entangled piece of a larger intelligence. They communicated instantly, shared tactical information faster than light, adapted to threats in microseconds. Where one drone fell, two more would emerge from unexpected vectors, learning from the previous unit's experience. The human defense wasn't just a technological shield. It was a living, breathing organism of collective intelligence. Deep within the Andes Command Center, General Maria Rodriguez watched the engagement with clinical precision. Beside her, Dr. Akira Tanaka manipulated holographic displays, his fingers dancing across quantum-reactive interfaces. Adaptive response at 98.7% efficiency, he reported calmly. Around them, a global team of scientists, military strategists, and artificial intelligence experts monitored every aspect of the engagement. The Valaxian ships found themselves facing something entirely unexpected. Their massive energy weapons, capable of reducing entire planetary ecosystems to ash, became almost useless. The human defense system didn't just block attacks. It understood them, predicted them, and neutralized them before they could fully form. Swarms of drones moved like a living liquid, finding microscopic weaknesses in the alien fleet's defensive formations. They weren't attempting to destroy. They were systematically dismantling the Valaxian technological superiority. Sensors on the Dominion's reach detected multiple system failures. Weapon arrays went offline. Communication networks collapsed. Navigation systems became unreliable. Admiral Krastak realized something terrifying. This wasn't a battle. This was a complete deconstruction of everything the Valaxian Empire understood about technological warfare. Humanity wasn't just defending. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson about the true meaning of technological potential. The first engagement was over almost before it began, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Valaxian communication network resembled a rigid crystal structure, beautiful in its complexity, yet fatally brittle. Humanity understood something profound. True conflict happened long before physical engagement, in the subtle realm of information and perception. Dr. Sophia Chen, head of the Global Psychological Warfare Research Unit, watched multiple holographic displays with the concentration of a master composer. Her team represented a perfect blend of disciplines: linguists, anthropologists, cognitive scientists, and artificial intelligence specialists. Begin cascading mimetic infiltration, she commanded softly. The first wave of psychological intervention was almost invisible. Encrypted transmissions began weaving through the Valaxian communication channels. These weren't simple messages. They were carefully constructed information packages designed to exploit the most fundamental weaknesses in the alien species' cognitive architecture. The Valaxian civilization had evolved in a hierarchical system so rigid that individual initiative was practically forbidden. Their communication protocols relied on absolute trust in superior officers. Humanity was about to turn that strength into a devastating weakness. Small contradictions began appearing in official communications, subtle inconsistencies that would be imperceptible to human observers, but created massive cognitive dissonance for the Valaxian mind. Reports began filtering through the fleet, suggesting potential betrayals. Fabricated communication logs hinted at secret negotiations between different Valaxian fleet commanders. Perfectly constructed audio transmissions suggested strategic disagreements at the highest levels of command. Commander Vexnera's communication tendrils began to twist with increasing anxiety. Each incoming message seemed to contradict the last. The carefully maintained chain of command started to fracture. Psychological resonance at 73.6%. Dr. Marcus Rodriguez reported from the monitoring station. His team watched as the alien fleet's internal communications became increasingly chaotic. The human strategy wasn't about destroying the Valaxian fleet. It was about making the fleet destroy itself. Artificial intelligence systems created communication patterns that mimicked perfect Valaxian protocol, yet carried subtle seeds of doubt. Each message was a precisely crafted psychological weapon, designed to exploit the tiniest cracks in the alien civilization's rigid social structure. Ships began receiving conflicting orders. Trust between commanders eroded. The once unified invasion force started to fragment from within, each unit becoming increasingly paranoid about the intentions of others. What the Valaxians didn't understand was that humanity had spent centuries studying conflict, not just as a military challenge, but as a complex social and psychological phenomenon. Every human discipline had contributed to this moment. Anthropology, psychology, linguistics, computer science, game theory. The Valaxian fleet's communication networks became a tangled mess of contradictory information. Commanders questioned their superiors. Strategic units became suspicious of each other. The invasion force was consuming itself from within, and they didn't even realize how it was happening. Admiral Krastak watched in growing horror as his perfectly organized fleet began to disintegrate, not through external attack, but through an invisible war of information and perception. Humanity had discovered something revolutionary. In the complex dance of interstellar conflict, the most powerful weapon was understanding, not just technology, not just physical capabilities, but the ability to perceive, to adapt, to understand the fundamental nature of intelligence itself. The psychological warfare had begun, and the Valaxian Empire would never be the same. The moment the Valaxian fleet entered Earth's solar system, something extraordinary happened. A transformation that had been decades in the making reached its perfect culmination. In Tokyo, quantum computing labs synchronized with artificial intelligence centers in Sao Paulo. Research facilities in Cape Town linked with nanotechnology institutes in Moscow. Every nation, every research hub, every technological center began to move with a single, synchronized heartbeat. Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked across the Global Command Center, a room that defied traditional boundaries. Here, a former Russian space engineer sat next to a Canadian climate scientist. An Indian quantum physicist discussed strategy with a Brazilian materials expert. An African machine learning specialist collaborated with an Australian robotics engineer. This was humanity's true strength, not individual brilliance, but collective potential. Global Defense Network at full synchronization, announced Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. Complex algorithms representing humanity's collective intelligence spread across multiple screens, a living, breathing system more intricate than any single human mind could comprehend. Experimental technologies that had been carefully developed in secret now prepared to emerge. Metamaterials capable of restructuring themselves at the molecular level. Quantum communication networks that could transmit information faster than light. Artificial intelligence systems so advanced they could predict alien strategies centuries in advance. In the Atacama Desert, a breakthrough nanotechnology facility prepared its most ambitious project. Microscopic adaptive machines that could transform entire landscapes, create defensive structures, and respond to threats with unprecedented speed. The Kenyan Space Research Institute had been developing adaptive energy redirection technologies. Their systems could take the massive energy outputs from alien weapon systems and completely transform them, turning potential attacks into harmless atmospheric displays. A laboratory in Singapore had created quantum entanglement communication arrays that could share information instantaneously across massive distances. These weren't just communication networks. They were a planetary nervous system. The Canadian Advanced Research Centre had been working on adaptive camouflage technologies that could make entire cities disappear from sensor arrays. Massive infrastructure could become invisible, untraceable, impossible to target. What the Valaxians saw as a divided planet was actually a perfectly synchronized global organism. Each research facility, each technological center was a cell in a larger planetary intelligence. "We're no longer fighting as individual nations," Dr. Rodriguez murmured. "We're fighting as a single species." The collaborative effort went beyond technology. Climate adaptation specialists worked alongside military strategists. Linguistic experts developed communication protocols. Psychologists helped create adaptive response strategies. Artificial intelligence systems began processing potential invasion scenarios at speeds that defied comprehension. Each potential alien strategy was analyzed, understood, and countered before it could fully form. The global research effort represented something unprecedented in human history. Competition had transformed into collaboration. Individual ambitions had been replaced by a collective vision. Humanity wasn't just preparing for an invasion. They were reimagining the very concept of planetary defense. When the Valaxian fleet would finally engage, they would discover something terrifying. This was not a planet waiting to be conquered. This was a living, thinking, adaptive organism, ready to defend itself in ways no civilization had ever imagined. The silent preparation was complete. Earth was ready. The first true counteroffensive began not with a thunderous attack, but with a whisper of data. Humanity's response was a precise, calculated symphony of technological strategy that would redefine interstellar conflict. Deep within the Global Tactical Response Center, a team of specialists from every corner of the planet worked with unprecedented coordination. Dr. Marcus Chen, a former Silicon Valley engineer turned military strategist, watched as adaptive algorithms began their intricate dance across holographic displays. Infiltration protocols activated, he announced quietly. The human counteroffensive targeted the Valaxian fleet's most critical vulnerability, its communication infrastructure. What appeared to be simple data packets were actually complex neural adaptive algorithms designed to systematically dismantle the alien communication networks. Each transmission was a multilayered weapon. On the surface, they appeared to be standard communication protocols. Beneath, they carried sophisticated viral intelligence that could adapt, learn, and systematically undermine the Valaxian fleet's operational capabilities. Supply lines became the first target. Sophisticated algorithms began introducing microscopic inconsistencies into the Valaxian logistical networks. Navigation coordinates would shift imperceptibly. Resource allocation systems would experience subtle miscalculations. A team of linguistic experts in Sao Paulo had spent years studying Valaxian communication patterns. They understood that the alien species' communication was more than just information exchange. It was a complex biological imperative. Their counteroffensive would exploit every nuance. In the Kenyan Quantum Research Facility, Dr. Amina Okonkwo watched as their most advanced systems began to interact with the alien fleet's communication networks. Each interaction was a carefully choreographed infiltration designed to create maximum strategic confusion. Adaptive Response at 92.4% efficiency reported an artificial intelligence system named ARIA. Its consciousness spread across multiple global networks, processing information at speeds that would seem impossible to traditional computational systems. The human strategy wasn't about direct confrontation. It was about systematic deconstruction. Each alien tactical formation would be anticipated, each weapon system neutralized before it could be fully deployed. Quantum-entangled communication arrays allowed instantaneous information sharing across the global defense network. What appeared to be disconnected research facilities were actually cells of a larger living intelligence. Each facility contributed to a collective understanding that moved faster than any individual human mind could comprehend. Cybersecurity experts from Berlin worked alongside machine learning specialists from Mumbai. Artificial intelligence systems developed in Toronto communicated with quantum computing centers in Shanghai. The entire planet had become a single adaptive organism. The Valaxian fleet found itself facing something entirely unexpected. Their most advanced technologies became increasingly ineffective. Communication networks collapsed. Strategic systems became unreliable. Navigation became a nightmare of conflicting information. Admiral Krastak watched in growing horror as his carefully planned invasion dissolved. Each attempt to reassert control was met with increasingly sophisticated counter-strategies. The human defense wasn't just blocking attacks, it was systematically dismantling the very concept of invasion. This wasn't a traditional military engagement. This was a complete reimagining of conflict. Humanity was teaching the galaxy a fundamental lesson about intelligence, adaptation, and collective potential. The counteroffensive had begun, and the Valaxian Empire would never be the same. The moment arrived with a precision that defied traditional understanding of conflict. Admiral Krastak's flagship, the Dominion's Reach, became a testament to humanity's unprecedented strategic capabilities. Holographic displays across the Valaxian command deck erupted in cascading failure notifications. Each system became a battlefield of intelligent algorithms, human creativity systematically dismantling alien technological superiority. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Global Tactical Response Center, her team a perfect blend of disciplines. A quantum physicist from Tokyo manipulated complex probability matrices. A machine learning specialist from Sao Paulo tracked adaptive response patterns. A cybersecurity expert from Berlin analyzed communication network infiltrations. "Final phase initiating," she said quietly. The human counteroffensive was not about destruction. It was about complete systemic deconstruction. Each alien technological system became a puzzle to be solved, a network to be understood and transformed. Quantum entangled communication arrays allowed instantaneous strategic coordination. Research facilities that once seemed disconnected now moved with the precision of a single living intelligence. A breakthrough in a nanotechnology lab in Cape Town would immediately inform strategic decisions in a command center beneath the Andes. The Valaxian fleet discovered something terrifying. Humanity didn't just resist. They reimagined the entire concept of conflict. Adaptive drone networks began to demonstrate capabilities beyond anything the alien civilization had encountered. These weren't simple machines. They were thinking entities with processing capabilities that made the Valaxian ship's computational systems look like primitive calculating devices. In the Atacama Desert, a breakthrough nanotechnology facility unleashed its most ambitious project. Microscopic adaptive machines could transform entire strategic landscapes, create defensive structures, and respond to threats with unprecedented speed and intelligence. Commander Vexnera watched in growing horror as each strategic maneuver became increasingly ineffective. The human defense system didn't just block attacks. It understood them, predicted them, and neutralized them before they could fully form. The Kenyan Space Research Institute's energy redirection technologies turned massive weapon outputs into harmless atmospheric displays. Massive alien energy weapons became nothing more than spectacular light shows, their destructive potential completely neutralized. Linguistic experts had spent years studying Valaxian communication patterns. They understood that the alien species' communication was more than just information exchange. It was a complex biological imperative. Now they used that understanding as a precise surgical tool. Each transmission became a multilayered weapon. Sophisticated algorithms introduced microscopic inconsistencies into the Valaxian strategic networks. Navigation coordinates shifted imperceptibly. Resource allocation systems experienced subtle miscalculations. The Canadian Advanced Research Center's adaptive camouflage technologies made entire strategic installations disappear from sensor arrays. Massive infrastructure became invisible, untraceable, impossible to target. Admiral Krastak realized something profound. This wasn't a battle between two civilizations. This was a fundamental reimagining of technological potential. Humanity wasn't fighting with weapons. They were fighting with understanding, with adaptation, with a collective intelligence that moved faster than any individual mind could comprehend. The breaking point had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The silence after the conflict was more profound than the battle itself. Remnants of the Valaxian fleet drifted like shattered dreams against the backdrop of Earth's orbital space. What remained was not a scene of destruction, but a testament to humanity's unprecedented potential. In the Global Diplomatic Coordination Center, representatives from every corner of the planet gathered. This was more than a military victory. This was a fundamental reimagining of humanity's place in the universe. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the room, her presence radiating a quiet intensity that spoke of something beyond military triumph. Around her, diplomats, scientists, and strategic experts from every continent prepared for the most important conversation in human history. "We are not conquerors," she announced to the gathering of alien diplomatic envoys. "We are students of the universe." The first wave of alien representatives arrived with a mixture of terror and fascination. Civilizations that had watched the Valaxian invasion unfold now saw humanity in a completely new light. These were not the primitive, divided creatures their intelligence reports had suggested. Representatives from the Galactic Council arrived with unprecedented caution. The Zorn Collaborative sent their most experienced diplomatic team. The Nexus Confederation dispatched their top sinological experts. Each delegation carried the weight of centuries of galactic political experience. What they discovered defied every expectation. Humanity's defense wasn't built on aggression. It was constructed on understanding. Adaptive technologies, collaborative intelligence, a fundamental approach to problem-solving that transformed conflict into an opportunity for mutual comprehension. The Canadian Adaptive Research Centre began sharing breakthrough technologies, not as weapons, but as potential solutions to challenges facing multiple galactic civilizations. Energy redirection systems that could transform environmental challenges, quantum communication networks that could bridge vast interstellar distances. Linguistic experts from the Global Communication Institute began developing translation protocols that went beyond simple language conversion. These were systems that could understand cultural nuance, emotional context, and complex philosophical concepts. The Kenyan Space Research Institute presented breakthrough propulsion technologies that could revolutionize interstellar travel, not as a means of conquest, but as a potential pathway for mutual exploration and understanding. Admiral Kraz Tak, now a diplomatic observer, watched in stunned silence. The civilization he had considered a simple conquest had revealed itself to be something far more complex, a living, adaptive, profoundly intelligent species that viewed the universe as a collaborative challenge. Diplomatic discussions revealed something extraordinary. Humanity's approach to the invasion wasn't about defeating an enemy. It was about understanding a fundamentally different form of intelligence. Every technological breakthrough, every strategic decision had been made with a deeper philosophical question in mind. How can we understand? How can we collaborate? The Galactic Council realized something profound. Humanity wasn't just a new player in the galactic community. They were a completely new type of civilization, one that didn't seek to conquer, but to comprehend. As the first diplomatic agreements were drafted, it became clear that everything had changed. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived, not with a weapon, but with an invitation to understand. The true conquest was not of space, but of perspective.